The Bible gives a very clear description as to what the Ark of the Covenant looks like.
The Ark of the Covenant, a sacred chest of wood and gold, has been missing since 587 BC, leaving historians and biblical scholars puzzled. But recently, scientists in Antarctica made a surprising discovery: the Ark hidden in a remote location. How did the Ark get to Antarctica, and who will take responsibility for it now? Join us as we unravel how scientists found the Ark of the Covenant in Antarctica. A new chapter in history. The Ark of the Covenant is a very special object that Jewish and Christian people love. It is very important in history. It is believed that it was made a long time ago when Moses and the Israelites were alive. The Bible says that the Ark had special powers and was involved in some amazing things, like when the Red Sea was parted and Jericho's walls fell. People have been interested in the Ark for many years. It disappeared long ago, but people have been looking for it ever since. Sadly, no one has been able to find it. But now, something exciting has happened. A group of scientists in Antarctica have found the Ark. They also found a copper scroll, which tells us more about how the Ark got to Antarctica. Antarctica is the southernmost continent on Earth, almost entirely within the Antarctic Circle. It is situated in the Antarctic region of the Southern Hemisphere, and the Southern Ocean surrounds it. This discovery has made a lot of people excited. It allows us to learn more about the Ark and what happened to it. It also helps us understand more about the history and culture of the people who made it. The Ark of the Covenant story is still very interesting to us. This new discovery is like a new chapter in the story, but before we can understand it fully, we need to learn some important things about it. The Ark of the Covenant is a special object made by the Israelites about 3,000 years ago. It was made to hold the 10 Commandments, which God gave to Moses. The 10 Commandments, also known as the Decalogue, are a set of biblical principles relating to ethics and worship. Moses received the 10 Commandments directly from God on Mount Sinai. The Bible recounts the story, particularly in the book of Exodus. According to the biblical narrative, Moses went up to the mountain where God spoke to him and gave him the commandments. The commandments were written on 2 stone tablets, which Moses brought down from the mountain and shared with the Israelites. The Ark was not just a box. It was a very big and beautiful thing, like a big chest that sailors used in the 19th century. Throughout history, scholars and archaeologists have worked very hard to find and bring back the most important objects from the Bible. The Ark of the Covenant is the most important one, and people have been looking for it for a long time, but they haven't been able to find it until now. The Ark of the Covenant was made from wood and covered with gold. It had 2 big golden angels on top of it. 2 poles went through rings on each side of the Ark so it could be carried. According to stories in the Old Testament, the Ark was involved in many miracles. When the Israelites traveled to the Promised Land, the Ark helped them overcome obstacles and protected them from dangerous animals. When they got to the Jordan River, the water stopped flowing when the people carrying the Ark stepped into it so that they could cross safely. During the Battle of Jericho, the Israelites walked around the city with the Ark for a whole week while trumpets were played. The city's walls fell on the 7th day, and the Israelites won. The Ark of the Covenant was very important because it contained some special things. There were stone tablets with the 10 Commandments, a pot of manna, and Aaron's rod. These objects were special because they represented God's agreement with Israel's children through Moses. God gave them laws and promised good things if they followed them, but bad things would happen if they didn't. God told Moses to make the Ark out of acacia wood to show this agreement and cover it with gold. It was a beautiful and holy thing. Acacia wood is a durable and versatile material that has been used for various purposes throughout history. It is known for its strength, durability, and resistance to decay, making it an ideal choice for construction and woodworking. Acacia wood is also prized for its beautiful grain patterns and rich color, ranging from light yellow to reddish brown. At first, the Ark was kept in a special part of the Tabernacle in the desert, but later it was moved to the temple in Jerusalem. The Ark was very powerful and reminded people that God was always with them and that they should follow his laws. It was a physical reminder of God's promises and warnings to the Israelites, and it showed how their faith and the miracles they saw shaped their journey. The recent discovery of the Ark in Antarctica has made people very excited. Both religious and scientific people are interested in it. We will talk more about this soon, but first, let's talk about the early journey of this amazing object from a long time ago. The significance of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant differed from other religious statues because it was a place where people could meet with God. When the priests were there, it was like God was there too. Even when the priests weren't there, the laws inside the Ark showed that God was still there. That's why it was called the Ark of the Covenant. It held the commandments written on the tablets. The Ark of the Covenant was a special and important place for the Israelites. It was where they felt the presence of God. It showed the agreement between God and His people and reminded them of their responsibilities to follow His commandments. The 10 Commandments were not just a list of rules. They showed what God was like and what He wanted for His people. They were a way for God to show His love, fairness, holiness, and faithfulness. God wanted His people to have these qualities in their relationship with Him and others. The Ark of the Covenant was kept behind a curtain or veil in the Tabernacle. This veil was made of blue, purple, and red yarns and was held up by 4 pillars of acacia wood covered in gold. It hung from golden hooks on silver bases. The veil separated the holy place from the most holy place, where the Ark and the mercy seat, which represented God's presence, were kept. This veil was very important, even in the New Testament. When Jesus died on the cross, something amazing happened. The temple curtain was torn in 2 from top to bottom. This veil tearing showed that everyone now had access to God because of Jesus' sacrifice. Because the Ark was so special, not everyone could touch it or even go near it. It was kept in a special tent called the Tabernacle, which God designed and skilled people built. Only the Levites, who were a special tribe of priests, could carry the Ark and work in the Tabernacle. The Tabernacle had a special room called the Holy of Holies, where the Ark was kept. Only the high priest could go into this room and do it once a year on the Day of Atonement. According to the Old Testament, a man named Uzzah was the son of Abinadab. He came from a family of Levites, whom God chose to take care of the Ark of the Covenant. His family, including his father Abinadab, were given the honor of keeping this sacred treasure safe for many years. Uzzah grew up knowing a lot about caring for the Ark. He knew that only special Levites were allowed to carry the Ark on their shoulders to show respect for God's presence. From a young age, Uzzah was taught to care for the Ark with dedication and devotion. His family knew how important the Ark was, and they passed down this respect from one generation to the next. When King David decided to bring the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, the news spread quickly throughout Israel. People were very happy and excited because this was a special moment in their history. Many people, including men, women, and children, formed a joyful caravan to accompany the Ark on its journey. They sang praise and worship songs while following the cart carrying the Ark. The people were joyful, and it felt like God's presence was with them during the journey. David was very happy and led the crowd with joy. It was a time to celebrate and thank God for being in charge. During the journey, families prayed and worshiped together. They sang songs to thank God for protecting and guiding Israel throughout its history. During the happy journey, something unexpected happened. In a rough part of the road, the oxen pulling the cart with the Ark stumbled, and the Ark almost fell off the cart. This worried everyone because the Ark symbolized God's holiness, and they didn't want it to fall. The idea of the Ark touching the ground made the situation even more troubling. In this scary moment, Uzzah quickly raised his hand to steady the Ark and stop it from falling. But something unexpected happened. According to the Bible, Uzzah died right there next to the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant, as described in the Bible, was very powerful and could be dangerous. It had to be kept at least 2,000 cubits, about half a mile from where the Israelites lived. If someone touched the Ark, they would die right away, and anyone who got too close to it would be in a lot of pain. When we look closely at how the Bible describes the Ark, including how it was made, what it looked like, and what it did, it seems like it might not be magical or supernatural, but instead, it could be a very advanced piece of technology, a technological marvel and a divine connection. Some people think the Ark could have been a special device called a capacitor. Capacitors are made by putting two metal plates next to each other with a special material called a dielectric in between them. The ark was made in a similar way, with gold on the inside and outside. Gold is a very good conductor of electricity, so it would have been very good at storing and releasing electrical energy. According to this idea, the ark could have made lightning or electric shocks, which people might have thought were signs of God's power. This could explain what happened to Uzzah, who died when he touched the ark and was shocked. If we think of the ark as a piece of technology, it becomes even more amazing. The ability to control electricity like that would have been very impressive for the time. The ark, with its detailed design and carefully chosen materials, might have been an amazing achievement in engineering and science. If the ark were a high-tech device, it would have given the Israelites a big advantage, practically and in terms of what it meant to them. Its power would have made their enemies scared and respectful, making them believe even more in their God. Another interesting idea is that the ark wasn't just a machine, but also a way to talk to God. The Bible says, "And there I will meet with you and speak with you from above the ark cover, between the two cherubim upon the ark of the testimony." According to this idea, the cherubim on the lid of the ark might have been antennas, making it easier to turn electrical energy into radio waves. The gold on the ark would have made these waves travel better. Some people think the ark used nuclear power, with radioactive stuff like uranium inside. When uranium breaks apart, heat, light, and radiation make a lot of energy. This energy could have been used to power different things, or even weapons. The story of Jericho's walls falling down might have been because of the sound of trumpets and the ark being there. According to this idea, the ark might have had a radioactive thing inside that reacted to sound waves, making the walls fall. The priests who carried the ark had to wear metal breastplates and aprons, like the lead blankets used in X-rays. These metal clothes might have protected them from radiation. Also, whenever a priest went near the ark, they tied a rope around his leg. This was so that if he died while he was near the ark, they could pull him out safely. More proof of the ark's possible radioactivity can be found in the book of Samuel. During a battle between the Philistines and the Israelites thought bringing out the Ark of the Covenant would ensure they won. But God didn't tell them to do this, and the ark didn't help them win. Instead, the Philistines won and took the ark to their city, Ashdod. As soon as the ark got there, the people got sick with painful tumors and felt really bad. This sounds like what happens when people are exposed to radiation. Research has shown that when someone is exposed to radiation, the effects can vary depending on the type, amount, and duration of exposure. In general, radiation exposure can cause damage to cells, tissues, and organs in the body. This can lead to a range of health effects, including acute radiation syndrome, ARS, which is a serious illness that occurs when a person receives a high dose of radiation over a short period of time. Symptoms of ARS can include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, skin burns, and hair loss. In severe cases, ARS can be fatal. Exposure to radiation over a long period of time can also increase the risk of developing certain types of cancer, such as leukemia, thyroid cancer, and breast cancer. It can also cause other health problems, such as cataracts, heart disease, and infertility. Radiation exposure can damage DNA, increasing the risk of genetic mutations in future generations. Symptoms of radiation sickness can include fatigue, weakness, fever, and loss of appetite. Exposure to high levels of radiation can also cause burns to the skin and other tissues, which can be painful and can take a long time to heal. Radiation poisoning is a condition that can occur when a person ingests or inhales radioactive materials. Symptoms can include nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The effects of radiation exposure can vary depending on the type and amount of radiation and the individual's age, health, and other factors. The Philistines thought this was a curse because of the ark, so they took it to other cities, Gath and Ekron. But the sicknesses didn't go away. Finally, they gave the ark back to the Israelites with gold and incense because they knew it was powerful and didn't want it in their lands. When the ark was moved, it was put in a special tent called the Tabernacle, a sacred dwelling for God. The Tabernacle was a special place where God lived with his people. It was built after God helped the Israelites escape from slavery in Egypt. God gave the Israelites very detailed instructions on how to build it. Once it was built, God came down and lived in the Tabernacle in a big cloud. The Tabernacle was separated from the rest of the Israelite camp by curtains. Inside the courtyard, the biggest thing was the altar. It was a wooden box covered with bronze, about 7.5 feet long and wide and 4.5 feet tall. Inside the box was a space where the priests could put coals. On top of the box was a bronze grating where the priests would put animals for sacrifice. There were also 4 horns on the corners of the altar. Under the grating were 4 rings where the Israelites could carry poles to move the altar around. There was a bronze basin between the altar and the tent where the priests had to wash their hands and feet before they went into the tent or offered sacrifices. Inside the tent, there was a lampstand called the menorah. It had 3 branches on each side and a total of 7 lamps. It was made of solid gold and weighed about 75 pounds. Each lamp had a little cup where the priests put oil to make the light. The middle of the shaft had almond blossoms. The menorah was the only light in the tent, which was supposed to always be on. There was also a table covered with gold where the priests would put the bread of the presence. The bread of the presence symbolized God's desire to be with his people. The fire on the altar was never to go out. God told the priests to put new incense on it every morning and evening. The ark was always covered because it was too dangerous to look at directly. When the ark returned from the Philistines, some people were curious and looked inside even though they weren't supposed to. Because of this, 70 of them died. During peace and safety, the Israelites thought the ark was a very important symbol of their agreement with God and their strong faith. They moved it to Jerusalem, where they built a big temple. They put the ark in the Holy of Holies, the most special room in the temple. The ark stayed there for over 300 years and was a big part of the Israelites' religious life. But one day, it disappeared without a trace. This happened in 587 BC, when the Babylonian army attacked Jerusalem, and the city was under siege for 30 months. After the Babylonians won the battle, they took everything valuable from the temple and destroyed the building. But even though they wrote down everything they took, they didn't mention the Ark of the Covenant. This strange disappearance from history has made people wonder what happened to it. If the Babylonians didn't take it, who did, and where is it now? Some think the answers might be in the copper scroll found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Most Dead Sea Scrolls were made of papyrus and had stories that weren't in the Bible, but the copper scroll was different. It was made of copper and had something else written on it. A researcher named Jim Barfield thinks the copper scroll is a set of instructions for finding treasures from Solomon's temple, which might include the Ark of the Covenant. He thinks someone secretly took the treasures from the temple when the Babylonians attacked. He thinks the Ark might have been one of those treasures. The book of 2 Maccabees says that the prophet Jeremiah might have been the one who moved the treasures. Underneath the Temple Mount, there are a lot of tunnels. People have often looked in these tunnels but never found one that goes from the temple to outside the city. But in 2007, they found a tunnel no one had seen before. It goes from the Temple Mount to the Kidron Valley outside the city. This new tunnel allows the Ark of the Covenant to be taken to a place called Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. The Copper Scroll lists 64 places where treasures might be hidden in and around Qumran. One place is described as having steps east 40 cubits long, with over 1,000 pounds of silver buried underneath. Jim Barfield says he found these steps. He also found another place mentioned in the scroll, a well and a courtyard. The scroll says 33 tons of polished gold are buried under this courtyard. Barfield found the courtyard and the well. He wanted to dig there, but the local authorities wouldn't let him. Barfield went back to the places with a metal detector that could find gold and silver. When he got close to the areas, the metal detector went crazy, which made him think there was a lot of gold and silver there. He asked again to dig, but he was told no again. Barfield still believed there was another place with even more treasures, maybe even the Ark of the Covenant. He used the first 2 places to find a straight line that led to a cave on a nearby hill. The entrance to the cave was sealed shut, which was interesting. Barfield took a piece of the stone from the entrance and had it tested. The results were surprising. The stone was made of man-made mortar, which was the kind of concrete people used at that time. But why would someone seal a random hill with concrete? The mysterious journey of the Ark. When Barfield used the metal detector at the sealed cave, it showed a much higher metal reading than at Qumran. This made Barfield even more sure that this cave was where the Ark of the Covenant was. But even with this strong evidence, he still hasn't been allowed to dig there. However, many historians who study the Ark think that if it wasn't at Qumran, it probably isn't there anymore. Some of these historians have an interesting theory. They think the Ark might have been taken by a Catholic military group called the Knights Templars. During the Crusades, the Knights Templars was formed. From the beginning, the Templars were known for being secretive and mysterious, and were good at money and politics. They convinced the Pope and the leaders of Jerusalem that they would protect Christian pilgrims going to Jerusalem. Once the Knights Templars set up their headquarters on the Temple Mount, they started digging a lot. They weren't looking for treasures, though. They were looking for religious things, and the Ark of the Covenant was the biggest thing they wanted. The Templars were known for using caves and tunnels, and a recent discovery in a cave system called Zedekiah's Cave showed a structure that might have been a guardhouse for the Templars in case they needed to escape. Legend says that the Templars did find the Ark and took it to their headquarters in France, the famous Chartres Cathedral. It was there for many years. By the 14th century, the Templars weren't as strong as they used to be, but they had a lot of money from their banking. King Philip of France owed them a lot of money, so in 1307, he got the Pope to take their money and arrest them. On October 13, 1307, the Templars were declared criminals, and anyone who was part of the group was arrested, tortured, and often killed. But before this happened, the Templars knew that King Philip and the Pope would do something bad to them. So they moved the Ark again to Scotland, where King Robert the Bruce was. Robert the Bruce was kicked out of the church, so he was happy to help the Templars. He made friends with the Sinclair family, who were rich and powerful. Together, they built a special place to keep the Ark safe, Rosslyn Chapel. Rosslyn Chapel is located just 7 miles southeast of Edinburgh, Scotland. It was founded in 1446. Rosslyn Chapel now welcomes about 140,000 visitors each year. The chapel we see today took about 40 years to complete, but it's less than half the size that was planned originally. A little over 100 years after the chapel was completed, the Protestant Reformation swept over Scotland. The Sinclairs were warned to close the chapel or risk losing their land and possibly their lives. They complied, and the chapel sat abandoned and neglected for almost 150 years. At one point during the English Civil War, Oliver Cromwell stabled horses in the chapel. In 1660, the old Rosslyn Inn opened next door. It attracted artists, writers, aristocrats, and royalty. The great Scottish writer Sir Walter Scott campaigned to restore the chapel as part of an effort to build national pride and identity. The first major renovation began in 1837. The legend that attracted Dan Brown was the possible link between the chapel and the religious order of the Knights Templars. They provided protection to pilgrims who flocked to the Holy Land after the Crusades. In the process, they became very rich and very powerful. They built a fort on top of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. When the Crusaders were driven out of the Holy Land, they returned to Europe. Many believe that the Templars became Masons and created the Order of Freemasonry. Some speculate that the Masons who built Rosslyn Chapel did so with the idea of making it a sacred place to house the Grail and other sacred objects. Many things about Rosslyn Chapel seem to be connected to the Ark and the Holy Land. The Templars' symbols and sculptures are all around the chapel, and the layout is smaller, like the first Temple of Solomon. There's even a special room inside, like the Holy of Holies. Some think the Ark might have been kept in Rosslyn Chapel, away from the trouble in Europe. But when World War II started, things changed. After the war, people kept looking for the Ark. The Nazis were very interested in old religious things. They wanted to find the Spear of Destiny, which was the spear that hurt Jesus when he was on the cross. They also wanted to find the Holy Grail, the cup Jesus used at the Last Supper, and the Shroud of Turin, the cloth Jesus was wrapped in after he died. They also wanted the menorah, a special candle holder with 7 branches made during the Exodus. They looked for these things when they took over France and other places. But here's a surprise. When France was taken over, President Roosevelt of the United States sent things from Rosslyn Chapel to the Americas to keep them safe. And where did the Ark of the Covenant go? Scotland to New Scotland, also called Nova Scotia, and more specifically Oak Island. But this is all part of a story. Oak Island is a place with a lot of mystery. It has a lot of caves and tunnels that nobody knows who made or what's inside. Some people think the Ark might be in Rome, where it's kept secret in the Vatican. Others think it might be buried on Mount Nebo in Jordan, where Moses died. And there's a story from Ireland that says, the prophet Jeremiah took the Ark to Ireland and hid it under the hill of Tara. Some think Jeremiah took the Ark to Egypt and hid it under the Sphinx. But here's something interesting. Some people think the Ark might not be hidden at all. They think it might be out in the open. For a long time, people have said there's a place where the Ark is resting. Believe it or not, some people think that place is Antarctica. Recently, a team of scientists said they found the Ark there. Now, the big question is, who will get to keep it? What are your thoughts on the discovery of the Ark of the Covenant? Let us know your opinion in the comments below.